to Up Close TV. I'm Linda Medina Lopez and your host for today. Joining us is Celso Baez, Assistant Director of Community Engagement and External Communications, and Julie Smith, Program Manager of Conversation Corps. Thank you, Celso. Thank you, Julie, for joining us this afternoon.
Thanks for having me.
We would love to get to know you a little bit better. Tell us more about your background and where you're at now in your careers.
I have been at Leadership Austin for 3.5 years now, running several of the programs there. Before that, I was doing fundraising at Habitat for Humanity, and I moved to Austin to volunteer with the AmeriCorps program through Habitat. So Habitat is what brought me here, and feel very fortunate to have gotten a few years of really understanding the blood of a nonprofit through the fundraising lens, which led me to my work at Leadership Austin, where I get to do leadership development, which is actually what I studied in grad school.
Oh. And yourself, Celso?
Yeah, I do community engagement for a living and for fun
Yes.
Outside of the workplace. I've been with Austin Independent School District for probably about 6-7 weeks now, and minus the winter break and the Thanksgiving break, so really just a little under a month. And I come to the district by way of Capital Metro, where I spent a little under 4 years in their community engagement shop as well. For those that don't know, Capital Metro is the public transportation authority in town. And prior to that, I did some work in some state and local campaigns. Originally from Pasadena, Texas, southeast side of Houston. So a transplant to Austin. I've been in Austin for a little over 8 years.
And most recently, about 2 years ago, you're a graduate of Up Close Leadership Program.
That's right. Very proud that I am an AISD Up Close alum.
You know, a lot of our board members and staff members are graduates of Up Close Leadership Program, so it's great to have you on board.
Yeah, I encourage those that haven't participated to find out some more information about Up Close.
Definitely will be accepting applications soon.
Yeah.
And Leadership Austin alum.
Oh yes, we all are.
Absolutely,
yes.
all three of
Yes.
us. So that's a fun part of this partnership as well.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So Austin is very innovative and finding new ways and engaging the community. Most recently, Conversation Corps was created. Can you tell me more about it, what it is, why was it created, and why is it important to the city of Austin?
Yeah, we definitely know that in this region, there's definitely no shortage of opinion in this town. Per capita, we have some of the most educated and engaged folks in this region. And, you know, Conversation Corps' mission is to engage the people of Austin in a meaningful way through civic dialogue focused on public issues that are hosted by community hosts and issues that affect them directly. So, you know, since its inception, which launched in January publicly, is that right?
A year ago?
A year ago? Yeah, not this January, January of 2015. There was like a 2-year lead up to its planning, and the partner entities that kind of came together to design this dialogue infrastructure are Leadership Austin, which is a nonprofit, Capital Metro, Austin Independent School District, and the City of Austin.
I think there had been several months of discussion around this topic before Leadership Austin came into the picture. Mm-hmm. And when we were asked to be a part of the initiative, it was a really easy yes for us. Bringing people in the community to talk about issues that are important to them, to have really meaningful dialogue out in the community with your neighbors, the people that you work with, work near, you know, in the areas that you live, work, and play. Mm-hmm. Talking about things that you may not agree about, and really understanding where other people are coming from was just such a good fit for what we do at Leadership Austin, and helping to train the people who will go out and facilitate those dialogues really resonated with us. When you layer in on top of that all of the feedback that comes out of those conversations goes to these public entities, and not only are we facilitating dialogue, but helping to shape policy and things that are going to help really steer the direction of our city.
Yeah.
Really meaningful work for us. So excited to be a part of it, for sure.
Yeah. To piggyback off of that, the big pie in the sky idea and goal that the folks that came to organize this program had in mind was, to have folks that weren't traditionally engaged in civic issues be engaged and made to feel comfortable to engage. There are folks out there that are just made to, be at City Hall or at a Board of Trustee meeting, or a meeting at a county commissioners meeting, or a board meeting at Capital Metro. They're just folks that love doing that, have the time and the means to do that. And so not everyone, can speak in 3-minute sound bites and give their piece about an issue via citizens communication in a public forum like that. Sometimes it's just intimidating for folks. So the idea was, like I said, to have conversations happening in your quote unquote, neck of the woods, and for them to be happening at convenient times. Folks work, folks have kids, have other duties, and daycare, this, that. Sometimes it's hard to find a meeting that's convenient for everyone. Deciding on a public meeting is like deciding on, topping. Us three deciding on toppings for a pizza. It's just going to be hard to agree on a perfect time. And so the idea was to have conversations happening all over the region about these kinds of issues, so that folks would be encouraged to go and talk with folks that are neighbors.
What are some of the past topics, and what is done with the feedback that's given?
So we had our first round of conversations last March, and during that very first round, we actually asked people what they wanted to talk about, what issues were important to them, the value that they saw in Conversation Core. And the feedback we got from that was very helpful in deciding what are some of the first topics that we want to talk about. So starting in May, we've had topic-driven conversations ranging from budget priorities for all of the agencies, mobility, affordability, AISD led a workforce development topic. We've talked about parkland, the use of city parks for festivals, arts and culture. It's a little bit of a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Larry Schooler, who deserves a lot of the credit as well for the partners convening to organize this, he likes to say that, the city budget or the AISD budget or the Capital Metro budget, county budget, those budgets are arguably the most important policy documents a public servant entity passes. And so, that was a priority for us to make a conversation around and convene folks around, because it's very important that they know what those issues are about, and it's going to be affecting them directly, in everyday life.
Mm-hmm. And these conversations serve as a force multiplier. These are topics that each agency is already looking for feedback on and using other means of public engagement. And these conversations bring in, it's another tool in the toolbox to
Absolutely.
get some, a little bit more in-depth feedback in terms of the way people are thinking and feeling about issues, different than online surveys or in-person public surveys.
Yeah, so the idea is that the feedback that is gathered and curated, in aggregate, is then summed up in a thematic form, so that Julie and some of the folks that kind of volunteer at Conversation Core, we gather that feedback and it goes directly to the decision makers at the respective partner entities. So it's for the decisions that impact folks directly, it's a chance for folks to give their feedback in a meaningful way and close the feedback loop and get in return what happened to that feedback, whether or not it was used to influence a decision at the end of the day. That's the goal.
We ask that people leave behind their contact information so that we can keep them in the loop. So they'll see within a month or so a report of what happened all around town, what the feedback was from all the conversations. And then as the agencies use that feedback, being able to go back to them and say, here's what we heard and here's how it was used, which is what makes this, I think, different than anything else. Mm-hmm. Quite honestly, that almost anyone in the country is doing. We
That's right.
Don't know of anybody else doing public engagement quite like this. So when you talk about innovation,
Definitely.
It's definitely exciting to be looking at it in a new way.
Yeah.
How can community members participate in these conversations? Where can they find more information?
The easiest way to find information is to go to the Conversation Core website, which is atxtalks.org. You can find a little bit more about the program there and see where all the conversations are, what past topics have been, reports from those topics, those are all there. And if And if people want to call 311, they can connect them with the right information there as well.
You know, geographically speaking, when you take, for instance, the sort of square footage surface area of, you know, where these partner entities cover in our region, you know, you have the county, you have the city council districts, you have Capital Metro service area, then you have Austin ISD's districts as well. And, you know, what we try to do is, you know, thoughtfully and intentionally schedule conversations in places where, like I said, in your neck of the woods. So it's very geographically dispersed in a way where, you know, you find a conversation that's pretty close to your doorstep, if not, you know, stone's throw.
And as we expand our outreach, we want people to be looking for information about Conversation Corps, you know, at their local coffee shop. Hopefully you'll start seeing more and more flyers at the church you attend, at the rec center, in the library.
Yeah.
Are you still looking for hosts? How can people get involved in that capacity?
Absolutely. We've trained in the past year about 70 volunteer facilitators. Some of those are hosting every month. Some of them jump in and fill in the gaps as needed. And as we expand the program, when we look at a vision of having hundreds of conversations per month, we definitely need people in all areas of town to help host these dialogues. So we just ask that they fill out a quick application online, which can be found on our website, and then go through a training at Leadership Austin. And then we'll get them out there and leading dialogue.
Who gets to decide what topics are scheduled for the next quarter, next 6 months?
That's the role of our steering committee, which is made up of a couple of representatives from each of the agencies. Celso sits on that committee. I'll let him say a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so it's a pretty egalitarian body. You know, it's representatives from AISD, representatives from Capital Metro, the city of Austin, and the county, and you know we convene pretty regularly to kind of discuss, you know, a long-term 30,000-foot view, strategic view of, you know, where we want Conversation Corps to be at and look like in the future, and you know, just kind of the near term. Hey, what kind of topics? You know, sometimes these topics are very pertinent to present day, and you know, sometimes we have to say, hey, you know, this is a topic that's folks are talking about and want to give feedback about, and so we make that topic it for the month. You know, we've received feedback from folks outside of the partner entities that have given us ideas for topics on a monthly basis, and we definitely consider those as well.
The most important thing when we're choosing the topics, when the agencies are choosing the topics, is the kind of near-term usability. We don't want to get feedback and then put it on a bookshelf for a while.
Right.
We want to connect these conversations with upcoming decisions so that we can use the feedback immediately and then get back to the people who are involved and let them see how their voice was heard.
Tell me more about the participants. Who are they? Where are they coming from? You know, what are they saying in terms of this new initiative?
Yeah, really good energy, I would say. And honestly, people from all areas of town. It's, you know, interesting to go into some of the neighborhoods that aren't close to the city, who don't feel connected, and listen to what they're saying. So depending on what part of town you're in, we're hearing very different things. And the goal is really to make sure that we are touching all parts of town. And getting as many diverse views. Sometimes within a conversation, you'll have very diverse views. We end up having people who might go to a conversation away from where they live because they want to hear what people on the other side of town are saying, or because it's close to where they work. So those are interesting conversations. While other conversations, everybody lives near each other and are somewhat in agreement about what they want to see in the policies that they'd like to see in effect.
Yeah, we were very intentional and deliberate about not making this a dialogue infrastructure that was, you know, in the boundaries of downtown. We wanted to go away from, you know, the city center centric mind, because some folks just can't get out of downtown. It's good to be on a neighborhood level and to engage folks as hosts where they live. So you know, we try to recruit diverse folks, in every sense of the word diverse, to be involved in hosting conversations. And you know, sometimes we know we can't just set a meeting So we know that we can't just set a meeting sometimes and expect folks to come. So that's why we're also exploring ways to transition in a way where we go where folks are congregating already to host a conversation after a mass or a church or whatever the case may be. After a community meeting at a recreation center in Northeast, Northwest, Southeast Austin.
Absolutely. We love to see that happen at the schools, even, where where parents are congregating while students are participating in some type of extracurricular activity. We'd like to get creative there in all areas of the city.
So I'd encourage those who are watching to definitely look into becoming hosts. It's very rewarding. Some of the feedback that we've gotten from hosts, not just with the conversation, but they just enjoy convening folks and talking to people that are their neighbors about issues that affect them directly. It's a way for folks to know their neighbors as well. Too often we just don't know our neighbors, and they live right next to us, and it's a good thing. It's good for neighborhoods. It's good for community building.
And the role of the host is to really to remain neutral and be there to facilitate productive dialogue and make sure that people feel heard. Which I think is one of the reasons this is so successful, and that as people talk, there's nobody needing to feel defensive or put up a fight. That host is there just to listen and to collect feedback and make sure that the people within the conversation understand one another.
Yeah, frankly, the attitude and the feel of these conversations are very casual. It's a conversation that we're having with a group of folks that end up becoming your friends and colleagues even. It's very different from, like I said earlier, a town hall, city hall meeting or a board meeting, whether it's at the school, Capital Metro, or the county. Those are so rigid and strict, and there's guidelines and there's everything's kind of outlined. It's not that. It's another way to communicate with your neighbors about feedback you have on, like I said, very, very important civic and public issues.
I visited one of the conversations in South Austin earlier this week, and that conversation has been happening the second Monday of the month, every month for the past, 7 or 8 months. And it was really fun to see those people come, and the same people continue to come back each month with a few new faces as well. So to see those connections that they've formed by coming to the conversations each month, and then how welcoming they are when somebody new walks in the door, that was really neat to see.
Yeah, I was at a conversation maybe a couple months back, at the beginning of the fall in Southeast Austin, and it was probably over 15 folks gathered around at a recreation center, and midway through the conversation, we had a surprise visit from a council member. So it's on the radars of the folks that are the decision makers and policy makers. So conversation core is a great way to communicate feedback, and it was a great conversation to observe. It was.
What are some of the goals of the conversation core in terms of how many people do you want to reach? How much feedback do you want to get? Those types of metrics.
I would say right now the program is in quality over quantity phase. How do we make sure that we're developing processes in the right way, that feedback is being used in an effective manner? And we're getting there. So I think we're ready to scale the program. And I know the vision is to have a conversation in every square mile of town. And I'm not sure exactly how many conversations that is. I think it's about 300 a month.
Yeah.
Wow. And ideally, these conversations are about 5 to 10 people. Beyond that, you lose the effect a little bit.
Yeah.
We want them to stay small. So instead of increasing the number of participants at the conversations that we already have, adding in new conversations is definitely the goal.
Yeah, we definitely want to cast a wide net, but like Julie said, the quality of the feedback and the nature of the feedback is what we're really after. We want to engage folks, in a meaningful way about topics and issues that affect them, irrespective of the loudest voices that we sometimes typically hear drown out everyone else, at the town halls, at City Hall, at AISD Board of Trustee meetings, Capital Metro Board of Director meetings, County Commissioners meetings. We want to hear folks that aren't traditionally engaged and hear what they have to say. So we want to reach as many people as possible, and we'll engage as many people as possible. But right now, it's the level and nature of feedback that I think is rich.
And I think in terms of stepping a little bit away from numbers and looking at success, I think when we start hearing the vast majority of people in Austin saying, "I really feel heard," you know, that's what success looks like.
Great participation, great feedback. Tell me more about the structure. What does it look like? I know you mentioned that, a few minutes ago. You want to hear everyone's voices and not just one voice is being heard. So tell me more about the structure so that people can understand what to expect when they walk into one of these conversations.
Maybe you could talk about a little bit the presser that we had in January and then how it kind of phased in to an actual simulated conversation.
Oh yeah, so last January as we launched the program with words from elected officials and all the partnering agencies, we simulated a conversation so that people would know what it looked like, which was really exciting.
Yeah, we kicked off the program and, Mayor Adler was there, Dr. Cruz was there, Linda Watson was there, and at the time, those were the partner entities, Capital Metro AISD and the City of Austin. We did a press conference and we quickly then shifted to the real people of the neighborhood. It was at Strange Brew. Yeah, in South Austin, and it just went right into a conversation, and it was the conversation about, what topics, what's most pressing on the tops of people's minds that affect them directly that they want to give feedback to, these entities about.
Absolutely, and so when somebody shows up at a conversation, they'll be welcomed by a host who's there to, again, facilitate the dialogue and make everyone feel welcome. The conversations last about an hour, and they're structured into 4 different rounds. They give people the opportunity first to get to know each other, to introduce themselves very briefly. The facilitator will begin with one kind of high-level question that everybody gets to share their feedback on, uninterrupted, round robin style, very focused on listening when you're not speaking. After everybody's had a chance to share their thoughts, and they get the chance to respond to what they've heard other people say. And the facilitator will then take the conversation a little bit deeper after they've had a little chance to interact, asking some more questions to really deepen the dialogue. And then at the end of the conversation, as a group, they decide on 3 to 5 themes that they want to pass along to the agencies behind the issues. And those themes vary, and we're not looking for a consensus. They might actually, disagree. If we're talking about this month, we're talking about in January water sustainability and conservation. And we're already hearing in conversations, some people show up and are saying, yeah, let's continue to conserve water in the way that we're doing now, and others are saying, no, let's take a step back and look at other ways to do that. So from the same conversation, you might have very opposing themes.
Yeah, these conversations aren't meant to be intimidating to folks that don't typically participate in civic engagement. If these conversations aren't held in a private room, say at a recreation center or at a private auditorium room at some facility or at a church, they're happening out in the open, like Julie said, at a coffee shop. And the first one happened at Strange Brew. Months later, I've heard some stories from some hosts that told me, we hosted a conversation. We had about 6, 7 people there, and by the end of that hour, there were 10, 11 folks there, because people that were just there doing their own thing, drinking a cup of coffee on a Saturday morning or a Tuesday morning. They're like, what's going on over there? Hey, and they started listening in, kind of eavesdropping, and they joined in. And it's meant to be welcoming for folks that haven't engaged before, and it kind of happened organically.
And people don't have to RSVP; they can just check out the website and then just show up to one of the conversations around town.
Absolutely.
Okay. On a personal note, one thing I like to ask all of my guests is, what's something that most people don't know about you?
You first.
About me personally?
Yes.
Interesting.
Any passions or interests?
That's a good question. Well, I'm from West Virginia, which some people know, but most people have never met anyone from West Virginia. There's not a lot of us that make it all the way down here to Texas. And I don't know.
I don't want to shame my hometown. I love where I come from, and it's who I am in many ways today. But a lot of people confuse Pasadena, Texas, which is southeast Houston, confuse it with Pasadena, California. Just totally different places. And sometimes it's not even known to folks as Pasadena, Texas. It's known as Stinkadena because of the chemical plants and refineries. You know you're in Pasadena, Stinkadena when you drive through the city, because you just smell the pollution from the chemical plants. So I tell folks, after I moved to Central Texas, a little over 8 years ago, my respiratory system got way better. So I don't even, the cedar, it doesn't even affect me, because I suffer from a lot worse. So I'm kind of immune to the cedar and the allergies, but yeah.
Let me ask you something in terms of Conversation Corps. What would you like to tell the viewers that are listening in, they're watching the show, and they want to get connected, and they're thinking about stopping by? Like, why should they?
I would want them to know how incredibly important their voice is, and how much each of these agencies want to hear from them. And so if there's not a conversation that's convenient for them, let us know. We want to make these available for anyone and everyone. And as we expand, we want to expand into the areas where people aren't being reached and don't know how to be heard.
It's a pure form of democracy. I think it's true public participation and engagement. I think if folks don't have a way to express how they feel about certain decisions, this is certainly a place to start, for sure. If there's any fear of engaging, the large entities, sometimes that's very intimidating for someone who's not, used to having conversations or dialogues with folks that work at these public entities about issues that affect them directly. It's sometimes scary for folks. It's a very interesting time in our country and in our region with issues that are affecting our communities on a macro and micro level. And I think, like I said, it's one of the purest forms of democracy is to do that.
And I would also say that if you don't know how you feel about a topic, don't let that keep you from coming. If you just want to come and listen and hear how other people are thinking, please do that as well. Because by the end, I think, of the conversation, you probably will have some thoughts about it. Yeah. And if you don't, if you want a way to start understanding the issues through the lens of the people around you, this is a perfect way to do it.
Yeah, you do a lot more learning when you're not talking and you're listening. So I try to practice that sometimes, as often as I can. So if you just want to simply go in and listen, you'll learn a lot.
Thank you, Celso. Thank you, Julie, for joining me today to learn more about Conversation Corps.
Thank you, Linda.
Absolutely.
If you have questions or suggestions for future programming, please call 414-9706 or email me at linda.medina@austinisd.org. I'm Linda Medina Lopez, and your host for Up Close TV.